Welcome, one and all, to See For Yourself. Coming at you straight from the mobility scooter capital of the world, I'm your host, HardCorey. And when I'm not daydreaming about Mila Kunis bending me over her knee and tenderizing me with a cricket bat, I'm here with you talking movies solo. In this episode, we'll be checking out 1976's Assault on Precinct 13 by the distinguished, the lauded, the adroit, the preeminently habile, the man who sent my thesaurus to therapy, the John Carpenter. After 3 minutes of opening credits accompanied by a really catchy synthesizer intro track, the movie kicks off with a gang of dudes wielding weapons and creeping around what we are non-diegetically informed as an LA ghetto. Police announce themselves and tell the dudes to freeze and drop their guns, and they don't, so they die, which is traditionally how that cookie crumbles. I really like the detail that these guys don't just suffer sanitary Hollywood deaths. As they take their vitamins, these guys don't even cry out. They just slump over, all stiff and writhe pitifully for a moment before going still. That dedication to realism instantly establishes a vibe. And as the sun rises over the city of angels, we're informed via news report that there's a gang crime crisis underway that involves the theft of an undisclosed but clearly concerning number of automatic rifles. Not the kind of thing you love to hear if you're a cop, like Lieutenant Ethan Bishop. We see him headed into work with a whistle. He gets awfully loquacious over the police radio. Keep those bands open, people. His chatty ass gets assigned to go man an old precinct on the edge of town that's on the verge of closing. And despite voicing concerns that he might get bored, the dispatcher tells him to go anyway. What gives? Bishop's a man of action. Put me in, coach. This is a cool little sort of gentle tickling of foreshadow, though. In the meantime, some inmates are being prepared for transport to death row. We get introduced to 3 of them, including a Napoleon Wilson, who immediately stands out as quite the character. Not only is he evasive, but also comes off as quite competent and crafty, able to get under the cop's skin or score their favor however he prefers, insinuating that he's used to wielding this psychological advantage. More Carpenter synthesizer score hits here, and it is legendary for a reason. It's so dominant and really does some heavy lifting to convey mood in just a few seconds. Now, Wilson and the other 2 inmates pile into a bus along with a few armed guards and an investigator. Please let this be a normal field trip. With Napoleon Wilson? No way! Evening falls, and Bishop arrives at his assigned precinct, and it's pretty chill here since the precinct closes tomorrow and they're running a skeleton crew. Bishop's introduced to Julie, the operator, Lee, who comes off as reliable and inquisitive, and then the captain, whose hair is truly something else. It looks like a 4-dimensional manifold of Lovecraftian geometries. Anyway, he's more than ready to pass the reins to Bishop and get the heck out of there. We see a convergence approaching here, as the bus transporting Wilson and the other 2 inmates is ordered to stop off at the nearest precinct because one of the inmates seems to have become delusionally feverish. And we can't have an inmate die before he gets to the electric chair. While Bishop is settling in and the bus heads towards the eponymous precinct, some gangsters are cruising the ghetto, evidently just looking for something to shoot. Now, a Big Daddy Lawson and his adorable little girl have gotten lost here while trying to visit relatives. And when Dad stops to hit a payphone, the girl homes in on an ice cream truck that the gangsters have been circling like vultures. She gets her ice cream and is almost scot-free but realizes that she was served the wrong flavor. Like any innocently clueless kid, she decides that 2 birds in the bush are more enticing than the one in her hand, and she returns to the ice cream truck, where the driver is busy getting shot by the gangsters. And in an outstandingly icy scene, she gets gunned down too. Dad reacts exactly like you'd expect, which is a compliment to the excellent acting in this scene. As he's cradling his daughter's body, the dying truck driver gasps out that there's a gun under his dashboard, then fades away just as the gangster's car rolls by. Very cool scene. Dad clocks their car and then sets out to do what dads do best, Opa Paul Kersey style. Around this time, the bus of the damned rolls up to Bishop's precinct, and the investigator in charge convinces Bishop to let him use their holding cells so they can get a doctor for Sick Boy. Bishop doesn't like it, but he's only a lieutenant, so what are you going to do? Good old Dad's righteous fatherly fury sees him tracking down the thugs until they notice him and pull off the street to settle this high-stakes road rage. They pop out of their car and give Lawson's sedan the old Bonnie and Clyde treatment, but Dad's smart enough to take cover behind what's probably a 3-ton door in his 1970s sedan. Then he manages to return fire and execute vengeance on the killer of his daughter with the revolver that was bequeathed by the ice cream truck driver. Go Dad. Unfortunately, there are 3 more gangsters and he's all out of bullets, so all Lawson can do is hightail it straight to, Bishop's Precinct. Thus are the red threads woven. The adrenaline having worn off, Dad is in shock and unable to even talk to the police once he arrives, but hey, they're bringing in a doctor anyway, lucky for Lawson. Or not. The phones go out as Julie is trying to contact the hospital, and then the power goes down. For some reason, they don't have a radio inside the precinct, which is weirdly baffling considering how tight the rest of this movie's plot is. Captain Vortex Head goes out to use his car radio and gets blasted immediately. Bishop picks up pretty quickly on what's happening and alerts everybody that they are in some shit. It's too late for the bus crew, though. Since no doctor could be contacted, they were headed back to their bus as the power went off, and they all bite it as the gangsters who tracked down Lawson open fire. All besides, of course, Wilson and Wells, another one of the dead men walking. Sicky gets what we guess had been coming to him the whole time. Wilson and Wells get locked back up while Bishop, Julie, and Lee waffle over what to do. They assess the situation and notice that there are hella bad guys outside. A trio of gangsters comes right up to the door and do some weird gang shit with a bowl of blood and a flag. Then the siege begins in earnest. Julie is understandably a bit freaked and suggests that they should just give up Lawson to save their own skins, but Bishop is truly lawful good and tells her that that ain't happening. Instead, he has Lee go to release the 2 inmates because when a bunch of guys with automatic rifles are trying to kill you, the distinction between cop and criminal vanishes. There are only survivors and the rest. Lee manages to get Wells loose just before the thugs pop up in the cell block and give her a shot in the arm, which she takes like an absolute champ before pistol whipping his ass. Oh, shit. She barely gets Wilson loose in time to handle the next guy, and thank God, because we've already surmised that there's more to him than a murder rap and a cocky attitude. Sure enough, he's a badass and takes down the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th thugs. Cool scene. At this point, it just becomes a desperate scramble to survive against this onslaught. Tactics aren't even a part of it, it's just straight shooting and guts. Lee, Wilson, and Wells kite bad guys into choke points and lay waste to them as they start breaking in through the windows. Unfortunately, Julie doesn't make it despite not being among the fighting. When everything settles a bit, Wells freaks out pretty good and wants to make a run for it, but they talk him down as they realize they only have 8 shots left between all of them. After talking for a minute, they reckon the only way to sneak out is to send one of them through a basement passage, which connects to the sewer systems, and out a manhole 20 yards down the road. Dear old Dad is still borderline catatonic and can't run with them, so they decide to just send Wells since he was so confident he could make it anyway. In a tense scene, he manages to solid snake his way to a car and then to a payphone, but womp womp. There's a bad guy in the back seat and Wells loses his mind. Literally, right? The remaining 4 then hunker down in the basement, and we get another glimpse of Wilson's depth as some sparks pop off between him and Lee. Being the inquisitive type, she seems a little taken with his shrouded personality. Bishop, meanwhile, MacGyver's an ocean nightmare trap with some magnesium flares and an acetylene tank. Cool. As all this has gone down, a couple of city cops are skirting frustratingly close to the precinct per reports of gunfire. But they can't seem to find shit because the gang is doing a really good job of keeping the street and lawn free of broken glass, bullet casings, and bleeding bodies. Good practice for when they're a prison work crew. After hitting their peak of frustration, the cops just happen to find a utility worker dead and dripping from his guy line up on a telephone pole, so they're finally able to call in assistance and get a helicopter on the way too. But back down in the basement, Bishop and Wilson are having a manly conversation, deflectively telling each other that they think they're pretty cool guys, as the precinct is being burned down over their heads. Then, amid the smoke, the gangsters flood the basement in earnest. Thanks to Bishop's really hazardous contingencies and Lee's really brave close-range sharpshooting, they manage to waste a hell of a lot of them before the popo arrive and send the remaining thugs scattering like roaches. Dad, drawer of first blood, gets carted away, while the final trio share a quiet moment of reflection in the face of this new uncertainty, their parting, and resulting guarantee of Wilson's eventual execution. So, what did this movie set out to do and how well did it do it? What the story explores here is pretty direct. It's that effective people set aside their ego and their evident incompatibilities when crises emerge. They trust one another implicitly and make shit happen. It's an interesting thing to consider if there's an inverse correlation here too. Could it be that luxury divides? Is it easier to quit caring about each other if we have the option? Now, in terms of craftsmanship, the deft characterization in this movie really is striking. There's not a single line of dialogue that fails to characterize. Consider Ethan Bishop. We see him for the first time leaving his house and whistling down the sidewalk. He has a cheerful back and forth with his dispatcher, and we don't see whether he has a family at home or what motivated him to become a cop in the first place. We don't need to, because he's all action, not history. And his decision to put his life on the line to protect Lawson, despite knowing nothing about what he's done or why the gangsters are after him, plainly cements him as the diehard do-gooder, the kind of determined and resourceful authority figure anyone can look up to. His willingness also to treat Wilson and Wells as fellow humans capable of cooperation shows that he is not predisposed to assumptions about an individual's ethics or personality, despite their history. Wilson, though, is the real star here. We start to see before long that his cynicism is an affectation, sort of a way he's coping with the fact that the law doomed him. We can also infer that even though he harbors grievances with the decision to be put to death for the crime of murder, he doesn't necessarily outright disrespect enforcers of the law. It's never revealed whether he has indeed killed someone or is only found guilty of doing so, since when asked, he refuses to elaborate. Now, we do know that remorseless murderers are prone to brag, while others come to terms with the fact that they have nothing to lose and plainly explain their motivations and methods. Sometimes guilty parties still insist down to the final instant they didn't do anything wrong, but Wilson acts very differently from all these. He projects an aura of resignation, but not really of guilt. Lee also is very cool, and not just for subverting the helpless woman in a crisis trope, which is pretty casually damned earlier on with the killing off of Julie before she ever gets a chance to do anything useful, not to mention Lawson's daughter. But Lee has this razor-sharp awareness coupled with her unassuming personality that makes you cheer for her. It's pretty rare for any character to so smoothly switch from serving coffee to mowing down bad guys with a revolver and still project a sense of being just an ordinary and real human. Ultimately, though, I sense that these characters are foil for Wilson, who I was fascinated by the whole time. When we end up seeing that despite heroically protecting Bishop, Lee, and Lawson, he's still bound for execution, this could have been emotionally overwrought, or his hard acidness could have broken down, or he might have finally given an answer to everyone asking how he got the name Napoleon, but no, he just rides off into the sunset stoic as ever. Not blue-balling us, but cementing his substantiality and loyalty to himself. Sometimes the mystery is the substance, and when there's nothing more to say, there's simply nothing more to say. Contrary to that, I want to remind everybody that you are so appreciated for listening to our show. And you can also check out the rest of the stuff that we do if you search No Uncertain Terms Productions. We got a YouTube channel. We've got music up on SoundCloud, Bandcamp. We're on Spotify. You know, obviously you're listening to this, so you found us somewhere. But there's more stuff out there to find. And if you want to contact us, you can always get at us at nouncertaintermsprod@gmail.com, or get us directly through the podcast, or send us a letter. You can find me on the street. You know where I am. Everybody knows. But until then, never forget, it ain't my tragedy, and fuck on and live.